the biggest mistakes I see boaters make on a consistent basis is deciding they're going to go out, enjoy a day on the water, and either not checking the weather or deciding they don't care what the weather's doing, they're going no matter what anyway. Today we're going to discuss that, weather and boating. Welcome back, crew, to this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Even on a nice day, there are plenty of things around the water that can mess you up pretty good. And before the comments get all out of whack, yes, the girl is wearing a bathing suit, but in today's YouTube age, if I show her wearing a thong bathing suit, the video would likely get flagged. So with things that can even go wrong on a nice day out on the water, why in the world would you ever risk going out, having a day of boating without checking the weather and knowing what you're getting yourself into? Too many times boaters wind up doing this and they wind up having either a miserable time on the water or wind up not really getting anywhere. Now this can happen in many different ways. Many of the times the way I see this one work though is what winds up happening is a boater decides he's gonna go boating the next Sunday, maybe go fishing with the boys. The reason he's picked that day, well, it's the only day his son doesn't have baseball, his daughter doesn't have swim, and his wife's going to brunch with the girls, so it just works out perfect. But he gets so consumed in that thought, he either doesn't check the weather or they decide to check the weather and it sucks and they decide they're going anyway. And bad weather can come in many different forms. Sometimes it'll be really hard to predict whether you're going to have great conditions that day. For example, a dense morning fog can put a real damper on a fishing trip pretty quickly. When you can't see on the water, obviously things can go wrong fast. I mean, really think about it. If you've been around this channel for a long time at all, you already know even on great visibility days, things can turn quickly on the water with all the googans that are out there. And yes, somehow nobody was injured in this. Sometimes your weather issues will begin before you even get on the water though. So you decided you're gonna go boating for the day, but you've still gotta tow that vessel down there. Slick, wet conditions can make it a whole lot more difficult to tow a vessel down to the boat ramp. But really think about it again. Imagine all the people and the craziness you see down at the boat ramps. Do you really wanna go down there and mess with these people during poor weather conditions? They barely can do it when it's dry. Now I do understand there's going to be times where you're probably not going to have a choice. You're going to have to get out there on the water, but really there's only a few situations where you're going to have to do this. One, maybe it's your job. Two, maybe it's your commute to your job. But if it's just a normal day of boating and you're just going out there looking to do hood rat stuff with your friends, pick another day to do that hood rat stuff, because there's no reason to get out there in poor weather, possibly get somebody injured, or just have a bad day overall. I know we all get that itch from time to time. We want to get out there and send her as hard as we can, trying to stay within the confines of not sending her too hard. But doing it on a nice fair weather day is just a whole lot more fun. I mean, take this situation for example. Let's say you went out, enjoyed your day of boating, and it was a little bit cold or it was raining and you got yourself stuck on the sandbar. Well, if it's cold, somebody has to get in the water and push the boat off. Not a whole lot of fun on a cold weather day. And of course, if you've got to get pushed off here and it's miserable and raining and you've got people sitting in the bow of the boat, nobody's going to be having a good time and it's just going to add to the stress of the situation. As to where here in this situation where it's a nice warm weather day, the party just continues once they get pushed off the sandbar. Another common mistake we see made is people with larger vessels sometimes will go out there in bad weather days thinking, well, I got a bigger boat, it can handle it. But the reality is most people with bigger vessels will even tell you this. If it's a crap day out there, it is just not fun. It doesn't matter what size your boat is. Now, another not so common weather condition that many boaters wind up dealing with is one that they don't expect. Typically, if you check the weather that day and you see it's nice, you think, we're good to go, we're gonna go roll, not realizing that weather from several days back sometimes can actually affect your boating. For example, if you live near a large lake, a large river, or a larger body of water, many times smaller bodies of water will feed into that. So if you received heavy rain 2 or 3 days prior, many times you'll actually feel the ramifications of those heavy rains several days later. And the actual ramifications of those rains are gonna vary based on your area, but for example, where I live, when we see rain come through and go inland, several days later, we see flood-like conditions, advancing currents due to the amount of water that is coming in, causing really treacherous boating conditions and flood-like situations. And what those flood-like situations also bring with them is additional debris in the water, additional things that you can hit, and of course it will cover up some things like rocks and boulders that may normally be exposed, all of a sudden maybe slightly underwater, posing another additional risk. So whatever you do, always fully check your total water conditions and weather before you get out there on the water. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Tracy Wyatowski, Alenka Bobkova, Verde Huracan, Bogans, Neto Garcia, Peter Frederick, Taki, Olson Raw, and Adam Coolidge did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.